Hi everyone.
Hello, good evening, good morning, good afternoon, wherever you're watching us. This is Shades of Vengeance. I'm with Ed. We're talking about Era Kaiju, which is currently on Kickstarter, and the reason we're talking about it is we're so close to £2,000 that it's time for some stretch goals, Ed. You've already come up with a full game. It's a very fun game, if I do say so myself, but we've got 120 backers helping us bring it to life, and we were thinking about things that we might be able to sweeten the deal with.
Absolutely. And there's nothing I love more than to bring more to a game and thank people for supporting one of the ideas that we've had. A stretch goal is a brilliant way of doing that. You get to add more content to the game universe. You get to thank the people who are supporting the game. What is not to like about a stretch goal? So I love to use resources that we are able to get from the Kickstarter in order to build that out a bit more. So I'm really excited, and just so you know, we've decided on a bit of a format for this. Leo is going to throw ideas at me for stretch goals for Era Kaiju. And please, if you're watching and you're in the chat, throw an idea at me as well. That's absolutely fine. And I will spend a moment or two just describing how it is that I think that would work and what that might look like. And we'll see where we get to. I'm quite interested in knowing what the stretch goals might look like once we've had a bit of a brainstorm.
Yeah, I'm going to see if I can curveball you.
We'll Good luck.
Yeah, I know. Just like you haven't thought of these already. For those of you who are watching us in the future, I'm thinking about potential modules. I'm thinking about extra bits and pieces. I'm wondering about kicking the door with my foot because I've got very long. The magic of technology.
Sorry, everyone. That's just my machine doing funny things.
So, start us off with a stretch goal. I like the idea of Zords. So, Ed, Kaiju's all about monsters and big things going on. How do you turn it into a Power Rangers sort of battle? The big final fight between a Zord and when a monster goes big.
Right, well, I suppose it depends. Are you talking about Zords as in individual Zords, as they are in the very early episodes of the original Power Rangers? Or are you talking about Zords as in later when they make the Megazord? Because that's two different answers. So true. I like the idea. I should say at the moment, Era Kaiju does not particularly support robots. And Zords are, whatever else you might say, Zords are pretty much robots. Mm-hmm. So let's start with individual Zords. And I suppose what they would do is they would fight an enemy by, quite literally fighting that enemy, but on a much smaller scale. They'd ram or maybe some of them have weapons and so on. But they wouldn't be on the same scale as that larger enemy. Mm-hmm. I'm a classic Power Rangers guy, and one of the first things that Zordon ever says to the original group of Power Rangers, you open the door.
For us, it was for those of you watching, the original Power Rangers for us, because we're old, is the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers.
That's the original Power. That's the first one.
It's the first one if you're not a diehard fan of the Japanese.
Okay, yeah, but I mean also that's cool. That's not called Power Rangers. So true. I'm going to go with Power Rangers.
True.
So anyway, so if you are being a Zord, the first thing Zordon said to the Power Rangers is, do not escalate unless they escalate first. So what you'd have to do is use the Zords to defeat the enemy if you possibly can. Mm-hmm. So what you'd be having is smaller size, mm-hmm. very limited, maybe subsets of the existing powers.
So not even 1-to-1 with a base Kaiju.
Yeah. Maybe I'd scale up like energy beam that you breathe can be like a damage and kill threshold, and maybe I'll scale those up to make them do less damage.
Oh, okay.
So it's harder, more difficult to actually defeat, say, King Ghidorah with a Zord. You'd have a very hard time with an individual Zord.
Unless you team up.
Exactly. Right. So you'd work together. You'd probably still, as individual Zords, have a very hard time because mm-hmm. your damage and kill threshold being high. Mm-hmm. That's a bit of a problem for most people. So, you could team up, you could join up to become a Megazord. that at that point maybe you're about the same size. I did talk on another interview about Pacific Rim and how you might do it. So the reality is that although machines don't exist of that size in the Kaiju universe at the moment, having a machine, I guess, form would be a possibility. I don't see a reason that couldn't happen. So you'd be the Megazord, you'd be a machine form, you'd have all the pros and cons that come with being a machine form, you'd have a sword to hit things with. You have various abilities. What you don't have is grasping hands. You can't pick anything up.
Oh, because you've got
I don't know if you've ever seen the Megazord,
course,
but its hands basically sort of can hold the sword and not much else. It's not going to pick up a building and hit someone.
Does that mean that the players at the table all get turns to swing the sword, or do they have to have job roles a bit like?
That's a good question. I think what I might do is something a little bit like Era of the Consortium, where everyone has a job role, as you say. You know, there might be an engineer who's repairing damage. There might be a pilot. There might be a weapons person, you know, who's doing the swingy sword. There might be a person with the rocket launchers, because that really did in Mighty Morphin Power Rangers. It was the animal White Ranger.
Oh yeah,
of the movie, or
the saber-tooth tiger.
Yeah, no, the falcon or hawk. Or
oh yes, okay.
That he got when he turned into an animal.
Yep.
So yeah, I think it's very doable. I think it's a doable thing.
Cool.
What's next?
Sounds nice.
Hit me.
What's next? Hit you. So I want to talk about magic. No, I don't. Actually, going on from we've talked about Pacific Rim there, and mechs. We've kind of covered mechs as a piece there. What if you wanted to make this a module to make big mech fights in, say, Consortium or Empowered? You know, the idea of taking the scale of Kaiju and applying it to a role-playing game where there's different dimensions already. There's a world, there's a narrative with smaller people, but instead of we've got a change in perspective and we've got a change in scale here.
Yeah, that's an interesting one. I guess my immediate reaction is probably that not a lot changes. If you wanted to have Kaiju in the Consortium, I think they'd be bombarded by spaceships or removed quite quickly. So I don't think it would be a big problem. But if you wanted to have them in, say, Era Survival, where maybe that's less of an option, or perhaps Era the Empowered, there's actually already a Kaiju character that I've written for Era the Empowered called Sobek, created by a good friend of Shades of Vengeance called Andrew Gow. If you're watching there, Andy, there you are. I managed to fit Sobek in. So this character grows, like he turns into a giant lizard and basically turns into Godzilla. And that's what this character does. That's his power. So it already exists as a concept within Era the Empowered. But if you wanted to put them in Era Survival and have a Kaiju, I think the problem that you'd have is I haven't written any rules for how a human would attack a Kaiju.
Right.
So the size difference there, the scale difference, it's definitely something that could be thought about as a stretch goal, but it's something that you couldn't do automatically already, because the scale of a Kaiju usually means that you can't attack it with a normal weapon.
So the module could be scaled combat, not necessarily associated with Kaiju, but taking the concepts that Kaiju's made, the size and grandiose nature of Kaiju, and changing the perspective.
I mean, it sort of depends a bit on which game universe you're talking about. So Era the Consortium, I don't think it's very important. I don't think it's a big deal, because you've already got ship combat. You can very, very easily say, well, it's just a giant
one-to-one. Yeah, of course.
If you're trying to do it with Era Survival, you've got big problems. You've got big problems, because you don't really have weapons in that universe that can defeat a Kaiju.
You also don't have injection that'll subdue a Kaiju enough to stop it from.
If you're very lucky, the Kaiju is a lizard. Or a tuna. No, wait, hang on.
Nope. If it's a tuna, it's very, very bad.
That was a joke there for anyone who's watching and wondering what the hell we're talking about. We played with a marine biologist once upon a time, and this marine biologist informed me that, in fact, tuna are a warm-blooded creature, so in the world of Era Survival, unfortunately, they would become infected. That's a bit of a problem for anyone who likes to eat tuna.
Me. But moving swiftly on from the tuna tangent, we always have at least one tuna tangent on these streams.
Do we?
I've said it now. It's going to remain. Well, no. Anyway, so we've talked a little bit about the idea of converting things to a module. We've gone through the mechs, which I do enjoy the idea of, or Zords, I should say.
Mm-hmm.
What else could we do? What about with... Would you consider giving people some seeds for a story or narrative setting, 60s flavor versus modern flavor versus space flavor versus, some little extra sort of set dressing?
Absolutely. Actually, I wouldn't do it quite that way.
Mm-hmm.
But what I would do, we talked the other day, and I haven't been able to think about it about anything else since. Is I would do Skull Island.
Mm-hmm.
I would do here is Skull Island. Here are the kaiju who are on Skull Island. Here are the different environments that you can go through. Go explore Skull Island. Here's a map. Go have a look around.
All right.
That's what I think I would do.
So that would be a potential sketch. So far we've got. All right. Okay.
So
sounds like a good. That's at least 3 stretch goals we've discussed, if not more.
Yep. We also, it's worth saying, we do have the bestiary already announced for the next stretch goal. We're just approaching £2,000 now. So yeah, we've got that.
So once we hit 2,000, we're going to get a new bestiary. So suggested pre-made kaiju.
4 new pre-made kaiju.
4 new pre-made kaiju. Excellent.
Which can be used as characters if you want to, or it can be used as enemies by the GM.
Yep.
If you want. Loads of options.
All right, great. Well, let's see if we get to 3,000 then, so we can get the Zords on now. Do me a favor, guys. I want Zords in the game now. Alrighty, sounds good. Thank you for sitting down with me, Ed.
Yeah, and thank you, Leo. I appreciate it.
Check out the link, the tiny URL /ed-kaiju.
That's right.
Oh, very good. Leave us a comment. I can read. It's a miracle, isn't it? Leave us a comment your suggestions. Check us out on Facebook.
Tell us what you'd like as a stretch goal, and I'll talk about it.
And tell your friends, because word of mouth is the best way to market things. Catch you on the flip side.
Thanks, everyone.